Most public figures leave behind them a mixed legacy. Some people regard them as heroes, others as villains. The reputation of Joseph Chamberlain, the first Chancellor of the University of Birmingham, is more complex. His impact over 6 decades in politics and his journey across the political spectrum is so substantial that it would be hard for any single individual to find in his life's work nothing admirable, or similarly for the same individual to find nothing with which they fundamentally disagreed. His last achievement, the foundation of the University of Birmingham, has proved to be, though controversial in its own time, the most enduring and the most widely recognised. Chamberlain's best remembered in Birmingham as the Lord Mayor who put into practice the civic gospel of social reform. He took into council control compulsorily the gas and water services. He insisted on free education for all of Birmingham's school children, and he cleared away the slums in the city centre to create the commercial boulevards of New Street and Corporation Street that we see today. More infants in Birmingham survived into childhood, and more children in Birmingham learned to read and write because of Chamberlain. And he established an expectation that the civic authorities would continue to intervene to protect and promote the interests, the prosperity of the people of Birmingham, whether that was in providing council housing in the 20th century or in redeveloping the city centre in the 21st. After the end of Parliament, Chamberlain remained a radical figure initially, arguing for national social reform such as pensions and arguing against Britain's war against the Zulus, in which he protested their right to independence. However, after he quit the Liberal Party over their policy of giving Ireland home rule, his policy became increasingly imperialist, and the height of this was his term as Colonial Secretary at the turn of the 20th century, during which he presided over the Boer War, the South African War, in which the British fought against Dutch farmers, Afrikaners, to prevent them establishing breakaway states. This war, in which the British used concentration camps and a scorched earth policy of obliterating civilian populations, is regarded as one of the most notorious examples of imperial warfare and was bitterly opposed by some of Chamberlain's former colleagues in the Liberals. He also went on to promote a policy which split the Conservative Party of establishing protective tariffs around the whole of the empire so as to raise the cost of goods coming in and protect jobs inside the empire. His supporters were also capable at this point of using political violence in order to attack their opponents. A particularly flagrant example of this was the riot by 30,000 Chamberlainites at a meeting in the town hall in Birmingham, addressed by David Lloyd George, the future Prime Minister, who had arrived to criticise the Boer War. Lloyd George was forced to leave the stage when the mob attacked with bottles and bricks, and Lloyd George had to leave disguised as a policeman for his own safety. This was not the only episode of political violence by Chamberlain's supporters. We don't know exactly what his involvement in it was, but it once again discredited his political cause in the eyes of his opponents. The culmination of Chamberlain's work back in Birmingham, and the chief work of his last decade or so of life, was the foundation of the University of Birmingham. It represented Chamberlain's best instincts. Compared to the small number of established universities at the time, it was to be modern. It was to be open and progressive. It recruited from all classes. It recruited women and men. It recruited from around the globe, from all nations and races. Chamberlain was not only its chief fundraiser, he was its main organiser and became its first Chancellor, seeing it through its early difficult years of development. Chamberlain certainly had a career of mixed fortunes and virtues, but we can say with the University of Birmingham he left the best until last.